this is Today in Bitcoin. So as you can see, we've hit 100,000 US dollars for the first time, and it's all over the news. You see CNN Business sending this out to Normie Land, and Bitcoin has now entered the world stage. It was building over time as Bitcoin rose from 60, 70, 80,000. More and more people started to be aware of it. But I'd say now that it's crossed the $100,000 mark, I just got a text from my mom about it. So it's officially here. The bull market mania has arrived. And I like to think of this as the golden bull run. The Clark Moody dashboard, Bitcoin is currently at 103,000 US dollars, officially breaking 2 trillion market cap. So very exciting times in the Bitcoin space. Basically just at all-time high. It hit it over the night. Some interesting stats here. It's only 11% of gold's total market cap. I think gold's around close to 20 trillion at this point, maybe 18, 19 trillion. So got a long way to go just to take gold. But as we know, Bitcoin's a lot more than that, which I'll dive into here. Corporate treasuries, there's over 2 million Bitcoin held on corporate treasuries. I'm assuming that includes the ETFs. And all this to say that, we're just getting started. This is now an arms race for Bitcoin. You have the United States talking about a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And if that happens, all bets are off in terms of, the global game theory that will ensue. I think it's already starting to ensue. You have countries mining Bitcoin, El Salvador leading the charge, but I'm sure there are others that have not announced it publicly. And so, it's all happening. We all thought it would happen. We all had this vision that this is how it would play out. I think if, it does go to nation state adoption this cycle, that's probably a cycle earlier than I expected. I expected this one to be the real institution, ETF, maybe a little corporate treasury. But if Trump does lead the way from a nation state adoption standpoint and buys 1 million Bitcoin over the course of his presidency, then it really is all bets are off in terms of where this thing can go. This is a really important chart that I don't think a lot of people understand or appreciate, but this is what secures the Bitcoin network. And you can see this chart is just straight up and to the right, but really took off after the China mining ban in 2021. And so as Vladimir Putin said yesterday, you can't stop Bitcoin. Who's going to stop Bitcoin? This is a global decentralized computing network, generating tons or requiring tons of power. And that secures it even further. I think, anyone talking about any other crypto coin at this point is missing the plot here. This is about a global arms race for a strategic reserve of Bitcoin. So 2 things I want to touch on today. One is going to be, where the cycle could potentially go. But also for those that haven't been in Bitcoin or don't really understand the 4-year cycle, what to expect. And look, it could change. This could be different if nation states really do start adopting Bitcoin, but I'm still a believer that we'll have a market rip in 2025, followed by a market crash in 2026. And so, just be aware, and I'll show you some indicators that could help, with timing there, but you can never time the markets. It's always different, right? So you see stock to flow model. This is still something that I believe in until proven otherwise. Plan B nailed it in 2021. I believe he predicted 55K as the top at some point, and Bitcoin hit 68K. So it overshot the original stock to flow model. And so this time around, he's saying it's going to be around 400K for this cycle. That's, not that far away from where we are today, given previous cycles from bottom to top. I think it was 3,000 on the bottom to 68,000 on the top last cycle from 2020 to 2021. That's how much Bitcoin appreciated. And so 100K to 400K really isn't that crazy. If you take it from bottom, it's around 16K to 400K, pretty in line with previous cycles. Now, obviously, it's going to require a lot more capital inflows to get there. But that being said, you have the ETF sucking up 20 plus billion in just under a year. And so, there will be more capital that flows in now that it's being promoted on, websites like CNN. Everyone is starting to get FOMO. This is a global asset. And so, all bets are off that it can hit 400K. But it is a large number. I'm more in the 200, 250K range for this cycle. But you never know. And so there's this competing idea called the power law that many have heard of. And so it's basically stock to flow versus power law, like which one is going to be more accurate over time. Both parties are very passionate about their models. And so, I'm just curious where this all shakes out, but you can see this one predicts around 200K in 2025. So, it should hit right under the last cycle according to the power law. So I'm pretty sure they're predicting around 200K. Top of the model says 500. But I'm pretty sure the power law guys are in that 200, 250 range. I'm personally a stock to flow guy. But this is the cycle that will determine who is right, in my opinion. Where we're headed, I mean, people talk about gold being 16, 17, 18 trillion market cap, and like that's, Bitcoin's ultimate value. I'm definitely more in the camp of it's going to eat into all of the assets that you're seeing here. And so I think gold is just the start. Ultimately, Bitcoin will be a global money. It's going to take 10, 20 years for that to play out, in my opinion. But that's where we're headed. It's not just a shiny gold rock. It's going to take store value from art, from collectibles, eat into the equity market, commercial real estate that's just sitting there passively collecting flows, but ultimately you got a headache to manage the property. If the roof breaks or the HVAC system breaks, like that's out of pocket money. So you can just put money in Bitcoin, hold it, and just keep your value over time. So, bonds, real estate, money, equities. This is inspired by Jesse Myers. I got to give him credit. He called this really early. But ultimately, this is a long-term play. It's not just going after gold. It's going after global wealth, which is over 900 trillion at this point and expanding. So, large runway ahead. So in terms of like cycles and taking profits, I think this is important. For anyone new, like this isn't going to go up in a straight line. Even if it goes to 400K, it will most likely crash back down to maybe below 100K, which is going to be traumatic for a lot of people, including institutions across the world that are buying this ETF, thinking that it's probably not going to go down that much anymore. Like I strongly believe that you're in this hype cycle in 2025, and you'll get a crash. Probably 50%, maybe a little bit more, but it's coming. And so the Mayer multiple essentially says once it crosses just over 2, if you could see here, we're approaching 2, probably 1.7 at this point, somewhere around there. But if you're looking to take profits, which I never am going to take profits in Bitcoin, always, selling my shit coins and hopefully never investing them again after this cycle. But I will admit I do have some shit coins that I need to exit. And so my plan is once Bitcoin hits 2+ on the Mayer multiple, typically close to this green line is the safest bet, but I think it might be a little lower this cycle. And so once this hits 2, I will start to exit my positions across my shitcoin portfolio and move it into Bitcoin. The next is the Pi cycle top. And so this is called every cycle as well. Basically, when this blue line hits the pink line, that is when Bitcoin has topped traditionally. And so I'm going to use a variety of indicators, mainly these two, to start thinking about selling my shitcoins. And so, monitoring this closely, we have plenty of room to go. The top right now is saying 124, 125, but this is moving up and to the right. And so ultimately, I think close to that 200K range is probably where we'll end up. But Bitcoin Mayor multiple, high cycle top indicator are what you should be looking for. Overall, extremely exciting times in Bitcoin. We're at $103,000. Crazy that I'm saying it, but we've had the vision for a long time now. And in my opinion, we're just getting started as Bitcoin has entered the world stage.